Now, today I'm going to teach you something that is crazy important, because if you learn these skills, your life will literally be transformed by the time you're done with this video. See, what I'm going to teach you about today is something called defense mechanisms. It's the way that your mind protects your ego, your sense of self, against invasions from the outside world. This is things that might hurt your sense of self, give you low self-esteem, and make you feel bad about yourself. So what do? Well, you defend against it. These are also called cognitive distortions. Cognitive, mind, thinking. Distortions, logic errors. They're errors in your thinking. They're logic errors. And once you get rid of them, your thinking gets like 10 times better. You feel better. You're more accurate. You're more whole. Your self-esteem goes up, not down. You gain more emotional control. You let go of a lot of painful things from the present, the past, and any pain you might have in the future. You just function like 100% better, and you feel fantastic. Why? Because now your mind is working for you instead of against you. It's working the way it's supposed to instead of the way that it did. So let's jump right in, where I'm going to give you 13 different cognitive distortions or logic errors that are going to transform your life. People always say to me, Professor Paul, how come you're always so calm and you're so cool and you don't seem to get too upset about anything, and you're pretty good in a crisis, you really keep your head about you. Even when things are going bad, you seem like you're in a fairly decent mood. How the heck do you do that? Are you special or something? No. Well, sort of. There's one special thing about me. I know the tools, strategies, and techniques that I'm about to teach you. See, when you don't know how to deal with something, you can't. But like when a magician shows you their trick, see, they could have fooled you with that trick over and over and over again, but once they show you how it works, you can no longer be fooled. These cognitive distortions are the same way. Once you know how they fool you, they can't fool you ever again. So, what's the difference between me and you? Well, until you learn these cognitive distortions and learn how to beat them, here's what's different about us. I have the same cognitive distortions you do. There's no difference there. But I recognize them, I beat them, and they drift out of my mind within seconds. And I realize they're a cognitive distortion. So anything they did say, I don't believe it to be true. You, on the other hand, defenseless, because you don't know what these defense mechanisms are and how to beat them, you go along thinking these are the true state of affairs. They get bigger and brighter in your mind. They start destroying your life. They go on and on and on, anywhere from hours to days to weeks to months to years. People have these cognitive distortions just running through their mind all the time. Things that I beat in seconds, and after this training, you'll beat in seconds. That's the only difference. Learn the tools, practice the tools, and you'll defeat these things quickly and easily. It's going to take so much pressure off your mind. You're going to feel so much better. Your self-esteem is going to go up. Your mental energy, your physical energy is going to go up. And you are going to have so much more control over your emotions and so much more peace and serenity in your life. And that's my wish for you. So let's jump right in. Be sure to like and share this content. Sharing is caring. Now, the first cognitive distortion we do, and these are in no specific order, is called compartmentalization. It means you have one brain, but then you have different slices of it, and one little part you hide stuff in. That's compartmentalization. You say, well, things are this way over here, but they're not this way over here. That's a compartment, right? So you say, hey, I'm a good, kind, honest person. I pride myself on my honesty. I also cheat on my taxes. How do you make it okay to cheat on your taxes? Because it goes totally against who you are as this honest person. You say, well, it's honest because I don't really owe the government that money. They're reaching in my pocket and they're stealing my money, so it's okay for me to cheat on my taxes. That doesn't make me dishonest. I'm actually righting a wrong. Damn, I'm Robin Hood. That's how you compartmentalize. You give yourself a rationalization why you can do something that's totally against your character in one little area. Compensation is the next area. You try to compensate for a weakness by focusing on a strength. People say, well, I'm not a great fighter, but I'm a lover, not a fighter. And that's the way they kind of blow off that they couldn't fight their way out of a wet paper bag. You got people out there and they say, well, I'm not one of those fancy schmancy college boys. I got street smarts. Said everybody that never got a decent education ever. Street smarts means You didn't get a decent education. Your life sucks. You're getting 2x4s upside the head left and right. And you say, I got to say something to perk up my self-esteem as I work my 3 jobs to try to feed my kids and my family because I never got a decent education. And every time somebody says something and I'm too dumb to figure it out, I can say, well, I could feel good about myself because they don't know certain things, certain street terms and slang and, they don't know how to patch a tire 4 times, They're not a gritty, rugged man like me. I got street smarts. Yeah, you're kind of compensating. Now, the next one, and this is probably the most primal defense mechanism, is a simple denial of reality. Just, it never happened. You see your girlfriend over hugging some guy and you say, well, she's just a hugger. She's friendly. She does that with everybody. And then all of a sudden they're kissing and you go, well, apparently she's a kisser too. She's really friendly. Maybe that's her brother or a cousin or something. And then the guy's on top of her bouncing up and down. And you're like, hey, that's my girlfriend. At that point, the denial breaks a little bit, right? But denial is a common mechanism. We're constantly just pushing things out and saying, no, that couldn't possibly be true. People do this in politics all the time. They see their guy, doing something crazy or awful, and they say, oh, he never did that. He never said that. So we see a lot of that, especially in this time period, right? And then denial can be simply that something isn't true because you don't want it to be true. You try to convert it into something else and just say, well, it isn't true. So denial is always the blocking out, or the simple even not thinking of it is a denial. Like when you have a challenge in your life and you should be working on something, you should be working on it. It's an area in your life that you need to fix, but here's how you solve it. You simply don't think about it. Another form of denial. Displacement, another classic one. This is where you get mad at the boss or have a bad day at the office and you come home and yell at the wife or kick the dog. Hopefully you're not kicking the wife and yelling at the dog. Sorry, that's just wrong. But you know what I mean. You're taking anger in one area and you're throwing it out in another. So that's classic displacement. Highly recommend you don't do it. But because a lot of these things are barely conscious or even completely unconscious, you got to catch yourself and stop yourself. The next denial mechanism, the next logic error, is fantasy. See, it's great that we have a good fantasy life, that we can imagine virtually anything in our heads. But here's where it goes horribly wrong. When we start BSing ourselves, say my girlfriend dumps me and I start imagining her, having like 3 divorces and never in a decent relationship. And then she's financially broke and homeless and crying in the side streets. And, oh, God, why did I ever leave Professor Paul? That's fantasy. Or I'm working at McDonald's and I'm imagining myself rich and on exotic beaches and these types of things. And I'm like, but how would that ever happen? What am I going to work my way up to general manager and make my millions and then go to the next exotic beach? I don't think that's going to happen. And even if that was going to happen, did you do one thing today to get towards being general manager? And the answer is no. You sat around fantasizing. And fantasizing takes you out of reality and puts you into a fantasy life where you do nothing, achieve nothing, and guess what you have at the end? Nothing. Intellectualizing. And I think this is the core, foundational, classic defense mechanism. You are using your own mind, every resource you have in your mind, against yourself. You're trying to figure out how something you're doing wrong is still right. It's okay. Like when I was a therapist and I was doing specifically drug and alcohol counseling, and I did that, oh God, for a couple of decades, I used to think very early on in my career, the first couple of weeks, I said, I hope I get some really smart people because they'll be very intelligent. They're good about learning. They like to take in new information. They'll be able to grasp these concepts so much easier than these, low-level functioning, high school dropouts, closed head injury people, that have like a 70 IQ. These smart people will do great. And those people crashed from their addiction faster than anybody I ever seen. You know who got sober really, really fast? Was the dumbest people in the group. I could almost tell your chances of getting sober by your intellectual level. In an exact 1-to-1 proportion of how low it was, your chances of recovery went up dramatically. If you were really, really intelligent, man, I had to watch out for you because your chances of recovering were slim. Why? Because you were so smart. These smart people were so smart. They could figure out new and exciting ways. They would do all these mental gymnastics and math calculations for why everything I told them did not pertain to them. And they were so smart, they could figure out a way around it and they didn't have to listen to me. Now, the so-called dumb people or low-level intellectual functioning, right? They're like, okay, Mr. Paul, you're a smart guy. I'll just do what you said.
Go! What's your sole purpose in this army?
To do whatever you tell me, drill sergeant?
God damn it, Gump! You're a goddamn genius. That's the most outstanding answer I've ever heard. You must have a goddamn IQ of 160. You are goddamn gifted, Private Gump.
And oh my God, they would get sober over and over and over again like that. They were almost unstoppable. And they had fairly easy recoveries. Why? Because when all else fails, don't try and reinvent the wheel. Follow directions. That's what a truly intelligent person does. So I was always fascinated because in this area, the least intelligent people were showing the highest level of intelligence. And the highest level of intelligence people were the dumbest. Projection is passing your traits onto other people. It's literally taking your emotions and then just projecting them on another person. Like if I were to come home and I would yell at my wife and say, hey, where's my damn briefcase? And she said, hey, you can't talk to me like that. And I'm like, hey, you got an attitude. Well, that's projecting your emotions on somebody else. And that's a complete and utter logic error. People love to blame other people for their own emotions and then project those emotions on them. You know, a liar will tell a lie and you'll say, hey, you're lying. I say, you're lying about my lying. You liar. You know, that's projecting it. It's like, apparently I'm rubber and then you're glue. And apparently whatever you say bounces off of me and then sticks to you. I mean, this is the level of thinking. But that's what projection is. You're just projecting it back out there so that you don't have to take responsibility for your own actions. Now, the next defense mechanism or logic error is rationalization. And I think this is really primary to all defense mechanisms because sometimes this one will be blended in with other ones, right? Or seems to be the root of it. Rationalizing is figuring out how it's okay to do something you're not supposed to be doing. So I'm not supposed to be eating cake if I want to be on my diet, but I'm like, well, you know, if you don't treat yourself once in a while, you know, you won't stick to your diet. Or just a little bit won't hurt. Yes, but a little bit less would be less weight, right? So rationalizing is, again, using your own mind against yourself. It's you faking out you, and boy, you can't win playing that game. So catch yourself in your own rationalizations. Would you believe this if somebody else were saying it? If you were a scientist and you had to prove this beyond a shadow of a doubt in front of your peers and against all attacks, would you be able to prove that this thing was true? Could you prove it in a court of law? You know, would a judge look at you and say, oh, yeah, that sounds just about right? Probably not. Then it's a rationalization. Get rid of it. Repression. You take it from here and you just shove it down here. That's another classic defense mechanism. It's a logic area that kind of sort of doesn't require any logic. How do you get away from your own horrible thoughts? You repress them. You just shut your brain down. You don't think about it. You block it off. That's how you stop thinking about a thought. So for many people, most people, we have tons of repression. Matter of fact, if you think you got a pound of repression, you probably got 1,000 pounds. Because you think you got a pound of repression, because mentally you can only feel the weight of 1 pound. But that means for every one thing that you think you hid from yourself, that you kind of sort of know that you hid these things from yourself, there's 10 other ones that you don't even remember. Why? Because you repressed it so darn good. Wow, you're awesome. You're really good at this. Sublimation, I added to the list, but it's kind of a weaker one. You see it once in a while. Sublimation is when you take like inappropriate urges in one area or things that might harm you and you try to use it in a healthy way and push them out in another area. Say you're like, I don't know, what's the classic one? You're like sexually frustrated, so you go to the gym all the time and try to sweat it out. Or you get mad at your boss, so you're, hitting the heavy bag and you don't even realize it's because of, stress at work, but you notice that you feel better after you work the bag for a while. You're just trying to work it out in ways. I'd rather you punch the heavy bag than punch your boss, and your lawyer will tell you the same thing. Hey, if you're loving this content, go ahead, like, share, subscribe, Write any comments down below. We love to answer those. I usually get back to people within 48 hours. We want to make sure that we're taking care of all your needs. Speaking of which, go down through our playlist. If you got a certain need, you can probably find it inside the playlist. Undoing is another, cognitive distortion. It's a logic error, and it's trying to, make up for something that you did. So, you do something, you say something, and now your wife or your significant other isn't happy with you, and you're like, oh, sweetie, let me buy you flowers, take you out to dinner. I love you so much. It's all hugs and kisses. You're trying to undo this stuff, and that's okay. That could be part of making up. But if you have to constantly undo because, well, you're constantly doing, okay, you got to get rid of the doing. Don't be doing these things that's upsetting your wife or your significant other all the time, and then you won't have to undo it. That's kind of the definition of an abusive relationship. You keep saying, I'm not going to do this. I'm so sorry. I'll never do it again until, tomorrow or the next day. And then you're doing it again. So now you try to fix it by undoing it. That's an abuser strategy. Don't do it. Scapegoating is the next one, the last one. It's classic. Why? Your fragile ego can't take it. So you say, it wasn't me. It was this guy over here, this guy over here. Anybody but who? You, because you can't take personal responsibility. Wow, that's the classic sign of a very weak person. You can tell people are, reaching self-actualization / enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, when they start taking more and more responsibility, maybe even a smidge more than they should. Why? Because they have the strength of character to do it, and they are no longer so weak that they feel forced to, almost have to because of their weakness, to scapegoat other people and say that was their fault. So classic scapegoating is like, you're working with a team and, the project comes in late. And if you're like, wow, if Sally wasn't picking up her kids from daycare or always late or always talking about stuff that was off topic, we'd have got this done on time. And the reality is she could have never showed up and you still wouldn't have got this done on time. You're blaming something outside of yourself. You think that by getting rid of responsibility, you become stronger and you feel better, and you can in a minute in that situation. But think of it. You're giving away your responsibility, literally your ability to respond, your power. You're not powerful. Something out there is powerful. I'm trying to teach you in all my sessions for you to take your power back, and that no matter what anybody does out there, if you do what you can do, you use your own personal power, then you're going to be okay. Hey, if you're enjoying the content, go ahead and like and subscribe. Make sure you get all our new content. Hit the share button too. Share this with a friend. You need this. Somebody else probably needs this. Or put it on your Facebook page for somebody you don't know needs it. But yeah, they really do. And look down through our playlist. If you have any challenges, go ahead and send us a message in the comments. I usually respond within like 48 hours. I'm constantly checking those types of things. And a lot of your needs can be met with our training videos on that playlist. So go down, look through, you'll find great stuff there. Okay, here's a great strategy to beat through all these kinds of denial mechanisms and logic errors. It's called HOW. Stands for honesty, openness, and willingness. The H is the most important. Get honest. What am I doing right now? How am I thinking? Am I blaming people? Am I repressing stuff? Am I compartmentalizing? Am I projecting? What kind of defense mechanism am I using? And it's okay. I'm the only person here. That's it. So get honest about what you're doing, because the recognition is like 75% of the cure, like we talked about earlier. Here's the other 25%. Openness. So I'm honest about my challenge. Now I'm open about it. I'm willing to think about it, change my thinking, examine it, look at it, correct for it, and then willingness. I'm willing to do whatever's necessary to make this go away. I'm willing to stop the thoughts. I'm willing to think new thoughts. I'm willing to study a certain area. I'm willing to be persistent and practice different tools and strategies like the ones that I'm teaching you today. And I'm willing just to let this all go. It's no big deal. Everybody does these things. Like I said at the beginning, the very core of it is, do you know how to recognize it? And I just taught you how to recognize it. And two, am I going to let it go in a few minutes instead of a few hours, a few weeks, a few years? For some people, they just do it forever. So the secret is, don't feel bad when you have one of these emotions or logic errors. Gosh, I teach this stuff and I have them all the time, several times a day. But I nail them down in seconds. So they're meaningless. And they can be for you too. Just be honest, open, and willing. I think that's the kind of person you are. You'll do great. If you have any challenges or any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments below. I'll get back to you. And check out my next training. Okay, I don't want to jip you. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you know I love to leave a bonus tip at the end. So here's your bonus tip. It's mindfulness. Mindfulness is not sitting there humming and meditating. I mean, yeah, it could totally be that. But at the simplest level, mindfulness is paying attention to what? Your mind. Watch your thinking. See what you're doing. If you just listen to your mind for 2-3 minutes, I guarantee you're probably going to find 2 or 3 logic errors. You can catch them early. Don't worry about them. Don't get upset about them. Be honest, open, and willing, and just take care of them. And they disappear. And what you're doing is you're doing what I call mental hygiene, mental cleansing. You're using mindfulness to spot the problem. You're using the tools and strategies that I'm giving you to defeat the problem. And then you're just simply letting them drift away. Beautiful. If you do that for a few minutes every day, 365 days of the year, well, you can take weekends off if you want, you'll be amazed by the end of the year how much enlightenment you've had. Enlightenment comes from the root word to lighten. And getting rid of these negative ideas and catching these things that are bothering you, distracting you, holding you back, repressing your greatness, and you're getting rid of those a little bit every single day. By the end of the year, you multiply that little bit times 365, and it's a whole damn bunch. And you will feel lighter or enlightened. You'll feel so much better. It'll be fantastic. And hey, you worked for it, so you deserve it, and I'm proud of you. I'll catch you in my next training. Take care.